For generations, my family has served and protected our city by following traditional paths. Me? I made my own.
Kiriko was the first Overwatch 2 support hero to be added. Some of us love her, some of us hate her. I'm more indifferent to her. I think that her lore needs a significant update, however, as the team has clearly shown that they do not want to fix her abilities and make her more balanced, as that's just how her character is. So to reconcile with that, I want to at least suggest how to improve her character and lore to make her more like the cinematic and how she's supposed to be in lore rather than how she's portrayed as a character in the game. Because we all know that in the game, she's kind of bitchy. She'll make snarky remarks. She'll go at you for almost no reason, and it's just kind of weird because you go off of her trailer of her defending this old man and his granddaughter, having a really cute dynamic with them, going rage mode after he supposedly died, and then she revived him, but she didn't know yet, so she went on a fucking killing spree almost. It was really cool, but then when I play her in game, I get whiplash from that protective girl into a psychopath that just wants to kill everybody. Well, that sure is part of her. I don't think that should be the main part we interact with. So, today we're going to be improving Kiriko and her character on this episode of Improving the Character, Kiriko Edition. First, I'll give a very brief description of her lore that I read off of her wiki, so if it's wrong, please let me know. But from what I could gather, she grew up with her mother and grandmother. She inherited the spiritual qualities of her grandmother, but the fighting qualities of her mother, which also trained the Shimada brothers, and so she grew up closely with them. Now, see, the first thing that comes up is she grew up with Genji and Hanzo, not grew up looking up to them, as her mother also trained them. Which means this 21-year-old girl allegedly trained side by side the 37-year-old and 40-year-old Hanzo and Genji and Hanzo respectively. However, not only do they not make Genji and Hanzo younger, they don't make Kiriko older, and they just say, yeah, she was 5, Genji was 17, 14, something like that, and Hanzo was 21. But if you look in the animatic where this was shown, Hanzo is no older than maybe 15 in the back, and then Genji is maybe 12. And you cannot convince me Kiriko is a 5-year-old. She is too big. At least that's how it looks to me, but maybe I'm just overestimating children. What they could have and should have done with Kiriko's character is instead of making her 5 and saying she trained alongside them, just say either she's older, more like 35, so she's still the youngest, but she's still a goofball with Genji and stuff. Or you could just straight up make her 21, but have her actively look up to them as people who are role models and just out of reach of being able to conversate outside of Shimada discussions at the castle, because that's where they train. Kiriko, Hanzo, and Genji all trained at Shimada Castle with her mother, and that's where, that's why they all know how to wall climb, because it's from her teaching. And, that would make sense. That would make the ages line up better, either way you went, and then people wouldn't be so upset with this retcon that not only is a retcon, but it just doesn't make sense either way. But anyway, following with that, if you do the route of her looking up to them, then when she eventually stands up to the Hashimoto, she could see a Genji that she might have seen go into Overwatch, seen him to want to be a hero, and be like, I want to be like that too. I want to be like him, and not like Hanzo, who went down a darker, self-destructive path. she could go down the path of protection and not rage. So when she takes down the Hashimoto, it would have an even deeper level of impact in that cinematic. Thinking she might see like a vision of Genji, like you would see a vision of Genji with her movements. Like that would have been so awesome. It would have been so cool, and it would have just made that scene even more tear jerking because a lot of people like actively actually cried at that trailer. I was like one of those people who like felt something. I was like, ooh, damn, this feels like that Reinhardt cinematic. It's getting me feeling something. But without this potential that I've made up, it is kind of disheartening that we didn't get that. And I think her starting her own gang with this could make sense, like a rival gang to the Hashimoto, because she did do that. I think they're called the Yokai, which, okay, I like it. Kitsune, there was a turtle guy, I think, and there's a few others that we may see in the lore. That would have also been fun to see in a cinematic, but, those are few and far between. But enough side tangent, back to her lore. So following our new version of the retcon to make it make more sense, after starting her gang eventually, Overwatch would come up into Kanezaka after the Hashimoto get out of hand. I think there was an Omnic thing. I don't know. This was in one of the newest comic books that I have not been able to read, so I do not know everything. But I do know that her and Hanzo make a connection, so that could be like a thing of her seeing the darker path, but then she sees how he has come to terms with it and is growing as a person, so that could be like like a good little bonding moment with them where he encounters this like visage of his past once again, like with Genji, and he just sees how she's went down Genji's path of not going into darkness and self-loathing, but instead choosing to be a beacon of hope. And I think that if this doesn't happen in the book, I wish it would, where she like inspires him a little bit to where maybe he would join Overwatch. It would still take some time, but then I think afterwards she does join Overwatch, or at least is actively aligned, like allied with Overwatch. So if they really needed help, and she could trust her gang and stuff to keep the Hashimoto's in check while she was gone, I think that'd be fun to see. Cause like in this scenario, she is still 21, so she's still on the younger side. So like her and Diva could have a fun time, and I just think this route of her character is a lot more interesting than like the current version where the retcon, not only is it annoying that it's a retcon, but it doesn't make sense. Now on to how she reacts in the game. I think in the game, instead of being snarky and making remarks actively, it should be more reactive. So like if Doomfist is like, what are you going to do with those puny knives of yours against my Doomfist? Then she could send me something snarky, like getting in between the plates of it, or you won't know what hits you if it's behind you. Just something fun like that in response to somebody like threatening her or like calling her pathetic, basically. So like instead of like somebody complimenting her and be like, is that a compliment? Oh yeah, like the Ana one. You remind me of me in my younger days. Is that a compliment? I think so. I'll take it as a compliment. Like there's just that underlying bit of that was kind of unnecessary. You could have just said, oh, thanks. Because Ana is an OG member of Overwatch. Kiriko would be a little familiar with Overwatch at this point, so she would know this is an OG member. She's a badass. She has no powers. Kiriko is one of those people with superpowers, because I don't care what you say, oh, it's science. Pharah is science. Reinhardt is science. Kiriko, Hanzo, Genji, they are magic. Just admit they're kind of magic. She is confirmed magic. The other two, I don't care, they're magic. But That would also be a good interaction. Like, Kiriko actively has her, like, fox be a pet. She pets it. It's a living thing, so I think it would be a fun interaction. I haven't seen it in game, so if it is there, let me know. But a fun interaction of, so, do you pet your dragons? And then Genji and Hanzo would just be like, what? What do you mean pet? Because from what we've seen, their dragons only come out to, like, fight and to attack. So that would be funny to think about it, where Hanzo just brings out 2 dragons and they're just like dogs, and Genji does the same thing for his 1 dragon. That would just be fun in general for them to have more interactions like that. But I think overall, just make Kiriko's interactions less active towards people when it comes to her remarks, and more reactive to negative remarks about her, and then more Genji and Hanzo stuff. I swear, I've heard more Diva stuff than I have Genji or Hanzo stuff, not including the sword or bowl cut incident. And with that rambling out of the way, I think I'm going to conclude this video before I pad out the runtime any longer. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.